This is the Biz News Podcast, one-on-one conversations with experts in business and personal development.
He or she left to spend more time with her family. Well, that's a sentence that often brings the all-knowing right from those who really don't know the full story. But in the case of Shannon Russell, it's true. Ms. Russell pivoted from a career as a producer for a major cable entertainment channel based in both Los Angeles and New York City to opening her own small business in the New Jersey burbs. She joins us on this Biz News Interviews edition to tell us why she did it and how she's expanded from there as a small business person. You ditched the TV life for some reason. Why on earth would you leave the land of spotlights and pulsers?
I loved television. That was my dream since I was a little girl. And I feel really blessed that I was able to accomplish that in being a television producer. But when I started having a family, I had my first son in Los Angeles, and my husband's a television producer as well. And I just kind of felt like, okay, these hours, this stress, this travel, it was a little too much with a little one. And so we moved to the East Coast, worked in Manhattan, and I got pregnant with my second little one. And that is when I realized, okay, one of us needs to make the change. And for me, I felt like I checked all the boxes. I did all of the things I wanted to do in TV. So it was time.
Many of our listeners and viewers may say she gave up life as a TV producer, but that must be so incredibly glamorous. What is the true life of a TV producer?
Oh yes. It's really long hours. I mean, it's fun because you become like a family with your crew and your cast, but it's really long hours. It's a lot of pressure, a lot of travel, and yeah, it's not so glamorous when you're on set until 3 a.m. and you've got deadlines the next day, or you're in a dark editing bay with your editor trying to get the show to air. And so, yeah, it's not as glamorous as they portray it on television.
If they did, nobody would watch, or they would send food.
Yes.
But you became an entrepreneur. Surely that is no less work.
You're absolutely right. And the only thing is that being an entrepreneur allows me to work those crazy hours on my own schedule. You know, I get to put in the hours. I get to decide when I close my laptop and I'm done for the day. And for me, that was what I needed to be that present mom that I, want to be with my kids. So for me, it was completely worth it. But you're right. I feel like I almost work more now, but I work from home and with my kids next to me.
If I am correct in my recollection, you have done two businesses, correct? A franchise and then one on your own.
Yes.
Tell us about them and why?
So when I decided I couldn't go back into television after the birth of my second, I was looking into what to do. And my then 3-year-old was building all the time with Legos or Magnet tiles. And something struck me that there was really something to the STEM education. And so I started researching, well, what if I open a STEM center for kids? And in my research, I stumbled upon a franchise called Snapology. And I said, you know what? I've never run a business. I've run major productions in television, but never a business. And so for me, the best step into entrepreneurship was to join a franchise, buy into a franchise, and get that support from the corporate office and from other franchise owners. So that was the route I went. And yeah, I've owned Snapology now for 7 years. And now I have it where it's successful enough that I have a team that's running that. And I've been able to open my second business, which is my career transition coaching business.
A little more about Snapology before we put the building blocks down. What exactly does it do?
So we do all STEM education for kids ages 3 to 14. So anything that's science, technology, engineering, art, or math, kind of STEM or STEAM, we call it. And it's all building with Legos, robotics, learning to code at a young age, anything that kind of gets their minds thinking like an engineer. And it's really cool because I always say it's like sports teamwork for the kids who aren't sporty, right? The kids come, they take our classes to learn social skills, to work with each other. It's really fun.
And how were you able to get away from the 6 a.m. to 5 a.m. work shift?
You know what? Like I said, my kids keep me up. I'm still up at 5 a.m. with the kids, but it's really just putting in the hours that you want and knowing that it's okay. And I'm not doing the commute. So in LA, I had the commute just with LA traffic, you know, but no family necessarily to come home to. I was still single doing that, which wasn't a big deal. But once I was back on the East Coast, my husband and I had a 2 hour each way commute into Manhattan from New Jersey. And that was a lot. So I definitely don't miss that. And I like the long hours again on my own watch.
Now, you started another company. What is it and what does it do?
Yeah, so I started Second Act Success career coaching because a lot of my customers at my other business were asking me, "Oh, you must have been a wonderful school teacher because you teach the kids so great." And I would say, "Actually, I'm a television producer." So it would spark this
You,
conversation.
you were used to working with 5-year-olds, weren't you?
Yes, I was. I always say, I don't know who was harder, the celebrities or the 5-year-old kids. Who's more difficult? But yeah, so they started asking, and then it started turning into a conversation of, well, can you help me so that I don't have to do the commute into Manhattan anymore? And it was friends asking me, you know what, I think it's time for me to leave TV. Can you help me? And so it just started sparking this thought in my head that a lot of us, especially moms, I feel like a lot of my clients are women with young families. And I think a lot of people feel stuck. Like, this is the career path I chose out of college, out of high school. Who am I to change it and disrupt the course of my family? And I started realizing, well, look what my pivot has done for me and my family. It's helped us so much and created such an abundance that I never would have imagined. And I got to have my dream job before that. So I feel like I want other people to experience that. And that's where I decided to launch Second Act Success.
Now, if it's a franchise, the franchisor has probably scouted out locations, and your customer base is going to come from a certain radius. Whereas with a consulting business, how do you find your customers and how do you keep them?
That is a great question. So you're right. My franchise business is just my county in New Jersey, whereas my clients now are all over. I even have international clients. So it's because I also, when I launched my business, I launched a podcast of the same name. So Second Act Success is my podcast. And that really got me a larger audience. And so then, everything's online. I'm all on social media making connections. I'm in different Facebook groups making connections. And so, yeah, it's really spread out. And it's kind of amazing when you realize that you can have friends all over the world. And then those friends can introduce you to people who can then become clients.
When you were starting the consulting business, though, you how did you find those first customers? You put an ad in the paper? Oh, wait, nobody reads papers anymore.
Yep, it was just really getting my through the podcast and through social media, just starting to get out there. And my first client was actually a local mom in my area who knew of my franchise business. So she had a small business of or has a small business of her own, and she wanted advice on how to grow the business. So I started realizing that yes, I can help people transition careers and I can also help them grow their small business because I've done that as well. So she was actually my first client that I was really just trying to take it so that she didn't have to work full time anymore and she could go full time into her business. And she's done it, so it's been great. And then it just kind of grew from referrals from there.
And so word of mouth is the marketing department. Is that correct?
Absolutely. That is the best because I can post all day long on Instagram, but you don't know if those are going to be your ideal client. But when you have someone who's seen success and they can tell a friend who can tell a friend and then say, hey, you don't even have to live in this town and you can meet Shannon on Zoom and she can help you. And that's really incredible.
Did you ever think back in the day that you would be doing this, advising people how to get started and grow their businesses?
Never, Doug, because you know what? I never had the thought of leaving TV. I don't know about you, but I really didn't because it was my dream. It was everything. It was just that shift when I became a mom that made me say, all right, I just don't know if this fits me anymore. And when I did that reflection of like, wow, I've really accomplished so much, and I have stories, as I'm sure you do, Doug, that I could tell for years and years of my experiences, that was good enough for me, and I was ready for my next adventure. So no, I never really dreamed about it. But now that I am an entrepreneur times two, my grandfather started a business when he was in retirement. And so I really feel this connection to him now that I think back, and I think, well, maybe it was in my blood all along, and I wasn't ready for it until now.
Where do you hope to have your business 10 years down the road?
I hope to be speaking on stages. Really, I'm starting to work on keynotes to really kind of get the word out there about checking your boxes and producing your best life, and really just starting the second act and knowing that we get one life that we know of, and let's do all of the things. So that's my next step, is to keep growing with the clients, but I want to be speaking, and I'm also writing a book, so just kind of expanding on my mission to help others.
Now, it must be difficult to think, where am I going to be speaking on stage? Because if I go to a company and say, I'd like to be the keynote speaker at your annual event, you're speaking about your employees getting another job.
You're so right. You're so right. So what I'm thinking is it'll be more like women empowerment kind of, conferences and things like that. You're right. Or sometimes corporations will have, wellness programs for their employees, where it's more about, succeeding at the position you're at and reaching that next ladder. So I can tailor it a little for them too.
Are you telling your sons, they're probably old enough to understand a lot of stuff, that don't go into TV producing, or what?
Okay, so with two television producer parents, you would think we would do that, and my oldest wants to be an actor. So now we are kind of like, okay, but you can also be a veterinarian, and you can also be all the other things. So now I'm kind of harping in on, hey, you can do it both. You can keep, don't just choose one thing.
What would you like to add, Shannon, that we haven't had a chance to talk about?
Really, that I think, transitioning to something else, like you and I, having these production backgrounds, we can find passion that's the same creativity and excitement as that in something else. And I think that's where it's important to just kind of look inside and say, like, okay, what else would I enjoy? And giving yourself that permission to change. I think that's the scariest part. And a lot of my clients will think, well, if I make this shift, it's going to disrupt the flow of my family, or, my partner might not be supportive. And I always say that you can research and really do that inner work to be confident in the decision that you want to move towards. And then you can get the people around you to be on board. So there's just give yourself that permission to think about it. And, change doesn't have to be chaotic. It can be really planned and well executed.
And where can our viewers and listeners get more information? I am guessing you must have a website.
Ooh, yes, I do. It's at secondactsuccess.co. So there you'll get links to even my Second Act Success podcast, ways to work with me. There's free resources and all of that.
You've been watching the Biz News Podcast. We welcome your input. Send your email to editor@biznews.com. Thanks for watching.